10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the John DeVito Show. It is Tuesday, and we've got a pretty cool show today. We're going to be interviewing Mike Vardal. He is the creator of the Dogs of Town Hall series on YouTube. And I've read a lot about Mike over the last day or two, and he and I have a lot in common. We both have 4 kids. We have a lot of similarities, and we're going to hear all about his YouTube series that he created, and it's pretty awesome. So we're going to get with it in a second. He should be joining us soon, and hope everyone is having a good day. So we'll be back at it in a second. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the John DeVito Show. As I said during my introduction, we've got a very cool show coming up today, and we're going to be interviewing Mike Vardal, the creator of the Dogs of Town Hall series on YouTube, and we've got him calling it right now. Perfect timing. And as I mentioned, he and I have a lot in common. He's a dad with 4 kids, just like I am. I talk about my kids quite a bit, and even the ages are pretty similar. For me, my kids are 18. 15, she's almost 16, and then my youngest 2 are 14 and 11. And I believe Mike's kids span from 17 all the way down to 3. So he's even got kind of a wider spread than I do. So, I got an email from Mike on LinkedIn, and he had sent me kind of a link to the show and talked about the reasons why he created this. And personally, as a father of 4, I think this is amazing. Because, when you've got a life where you're married, you've got 4 kids, you've got a job, you are being pulled in so many different directions, whether it be, you have to be perfect at work. You have to, again, be there for your wife. You have to be there for your kids at their sporting events, at their activities, at all the various things that come up with children. And I'm even dealing with that now where, we don't have a child that drives yet in my house. And I am just like a full-time Uber driver on top of my job, on top of all the other things that I try to do. And for me, it creates a lot of anxiety. And I know my children have dealt with a lot of anxiety. So, when I saw this was something I definitely wanted to do for my show. And I'm excited for the interview. So, Mike, I just want to welcome you to my show. Welcome.
Hey, hi, John. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on. And plus, we're kind of in neighboring states. I'm up here in Massachusetts, and you're down there in Connecticut?
Yeah, I'm down right outside of Hartford in a small town.
Okay, sure. I know the area well. I've actually, in my day job, I work in sales, and I travel the Northeast. So I spend a lot of time in Connecticut and a lot of time, in the Hartford area, and of course, some of the other larger metro areas down in Connecticut. But if you could, I just want to start off with you maybe kind of telling us a little bit about yourself. And, did you grow up in Connecticut? Tell us about maybe where you went to school and, your family life and how you kind of got involved in, creating this series on YouTube.
Well, yeah, I lived in Connecticut my whole life. I lived in the same town actually for about 30 years. Now I'm actually the next town over from my parents. Both my parents.
Hey, hold on one sec, Mike. Mike, we're having a little trouble with you, Mike. Can you? It's a little bit soft. I've got my volume turned all the way up. Is there a way you can maybe increase your volume a little bit?
Let me see.
Yeah.
This is my
If we have a trouble with audio, we can just have you call in directly. I can give you my cell phone number. We can patch you in. Sometimes this happens.
Is that a little better?
It's okay. Maybe just try to talk nice and loud if you can, so everybody can hear you.
Okay. There we go. So yeah, I lived in Connecticut my whole life. I'm in a town that's I lived for 30 years, and now I live the next town over. I've always been into comedy and the funny stuff. My brother and sister are a little bit more boring, a little different than I was. So I guess I'm a little quite different. You still hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Yep, go ahead.
Yep. So when I finally moved, I moved out when I got married. Uh, my wife already had a son when I met her, whom I adopted, and we had three daughters after him. So, like you said, we have four kids. The youngest is three. The 3-year-old is in most of the Dogs of Town Hall videos, which we could talk about shortly. But she's the main character. She's the leader of the pack, basically, of all
I
the
saw
young
her.
dogs in the
She
woods.
looks like she's all personality. She is adorable,
But she
and
is.
she looks like she loves it.
She does, and and she's smart too. So she helped us actually write storylines, and my other kids do too. But she'll I'll be filming her and I'll say this and then say this, and then she repeats it and I record it. When she thinks I'm not recording, she makes up her own lines. But I'm still recording, so a lot of times what we see in the show is her own lines and actually takes the story in different directions. And it happens all the time because when she's not being recorded, or thinks she's not, is when she's the funniest.
Well, it sounds like you might have an actor on your hands. I know that two of my kids do some acting, and my oldest son, Matt, who's 18, is on the autism spectrum. He just actually made it into his first film. He was in the Netflix film Don't Look Up with Leonardo DiCaprio. So you never know. She could be kind of a burgeoning actor going forward. Sounds like she's got the improv skills.
That's really cool. And we were just talking today, she keeps dancing in the living room. Like, well, maybe we should get her into dance. Let's get her into something, you know. And we just moved to this town too recently because we're the next town over from where I was, like I said, but now we're the other next town over the other direction. So we don't know anybody. And she keeps
Right.
picking up her phone and talking to fake friends that maybe you got her some friends around here.
Well, I mean, it's a tough age where she's 3 years old. I mean, I don't know if she goes to preschool or anything like that yet. I know my kids went to daycare because my wife and I both worked, and we hated putting our kids in daycare, but we were lucky. We had some good places to put them. But it's true. I mean, until they really get into school, it's kind of tough for them to find a lot of kids their age to kind of hang out and play with, and they do get lonely sometimes. But man, you're busy. 4 kids. How do you do it? I mean, I know for us it's a challenge. And I'm sure you probably feel the same way a lot of days where it's just hard to kind of keep everything together with 4 kids and you guys working and everything.
Yeah, some days are. My wife used to work as a kindergarten teacher in a Christian school, but she got laid off when the school closed.
Right.
So when she was home, some stuff became a little bit easier because she was able to manage the doctor appointments and things like that with the kids. I work over an hour away. I actually work in Holyoke, Mass.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty good drive.
Every day.
Yeah.
It's 70 minutes from my house. And I don't anymore, but I was working 12-hour shifts, which means I was gone more than 14 hours a day. And part of the reason I started this, is I come home and I'll say, you missed my soccer game, you missed my dance recital. I haven't seen you in 2 days because you're on night shift and you've been sleeping through the days. And it was just a little bit, as a dad, it's not who I wanted to be.
Yeah, no, I get that 100%. I mean, that's when I read your story. Honestly, I was like, wow, this guy has a lot in common to what I have, because I've had to make some tough choices in my life also. Now, my wife is actually a physician, so she's got busy, very busy hours, but she's home every night, which is a good thing. And for me, I'm in sales, and the next step in a career for a person like me is to be on an airplane just all the time and never being home. So when my kids were younger, I did become the interim vice president of sales for a company I was working for. I was on a plane every Monday, didn't get home till Friday, had to work a lot of weekends. And I remember just sitting back thinking, man, my kids are only going to be little for a certain amount of time, and I don't want to miss this small window of time I have with them. So when it I was able to interview for the permanent job. I turned it down. I didn't want the job, and it would have been a very good career move for me. But it was one of those things where sometimes you have to pick and choose, what you want to have, precedent, I guess, in your life. But it's hard when, if you're the sole money winner in your house and you have a job that's in Holyoke, which again, I know is a pretty good drive. I live in central Massachusetts, probably about 45 minutes east of Holyoke. So I know where Holyoke is. And that's a pretty good drive from the Hartford area. I mean, you could probably go in against traffic most days, I guess. But, well, maybe not. Going through Springfield, I would imagine you probably hit some morning traffic if you don't leave early enough. But so you were saying you were dealing with quite a bit of anxiety in your life. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So a lot of it at first was, work related. I'd be on call, and then after I'd be working 70 hours a week, 60 hours a week, I get called in again, and I have to go take care of more work, and I'm missing more time, and I was just causing more stress. And like I said, living with the 4 kids alone sometimes can be annoying. How many times are you going to say, move your shoes out of the hallway and stuff? it builds up. But I think a lot of it was work related, and then I'd come home and just take it out on the kids or whoever.
Well, it's hard not to sometimes. I know I grew up in a home, and I talk about this quite a bit, where, I didn't have the best life growing up as a young child. My parents did the best they could. I've made peace with it over the years, but it wasn't an easy place. But now, as a parent, I can look back and realize the pressures that my parents had when trying to raise me. And I kind of get it a little bit more because, man, when like you said, you're working 12-hour days, you're traveling 70 minutes from, the Hartford area up to Holyoke and back. I mean, that is a lot of stress on your plate. Then you've got your kids, Dad, why'd you miss my soccer game? Why'd you miss this? And you can understand why they want you to be there. But you're right. It kind of gets you, not just a feeling of guilt, but I mean, as a parent, you want to be there and you don't want to miss it. But also, it's hard for the kids to understand that you also have to, pay for your house and pay for your food and pay for your clothes, and handle all those life expenses. So you were dealing with quite a bit of anxiety, and all of a sudden, I guess you decided to, create this YouTube series. Now, what gave you the idea to do this? And I guess what was the thought behind it?
So this actually started when Corona started. Basically, I was home for about a month at first, say in the middle of March to mid-April, and I realized what I was missing. It didn't hit me until I was home and I saw them every day, and I saw what they were doing, and I went to everything they had, and I made my own hours, and I had zero commute. And I'm like, I want to stay home all the time. Yep. And my wife and I both know people personally who are making a living from YouTube. Even people that are making a living on Instagram and other socials. I'm like, well, why not us? We don't suck that bad. Why not us? So my kids had said, well, the song "I'm a Savage" from Megan Thee Stallion, I sing all the time on the piano to be annoying, and I say, I'm a salad, lettuce, carrots, and some radish. And I sing it all the time. And I'm like, why don't you put it up on YouTube? That would be really well. I'm like, well, again, back to the anxiety. I'm too shy. I don't want people to see me. I can't sing. People will think I suck. And they said, just do it. So that was my first video, which I'm actually wearing a wig because the only way I could be comfortable with myself acting like an idiot was to look like an idiot.
Awesome. I love it.
And that video still has more hits than anything I had. I think it's maybe like 7,200 or so.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty solid number for the number of hits you got with a new page. That's excellent.
Yeah. So it's doing good, and I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I do have a chance. So I started doing other music parodies, other short comedy sketches, and it's going good. It wasn't going the best, but it was going pretty good. And about middle of December, right after I moved to my new house, I'm like, I have 4 kids. My first job many, many years ago was working as a preschool teacher. I'm like, why don't I just make a kids show?
Yep.
So let's try this out with the dogs. And then when I was trying it out with the dogs, just kind of like doing testing, my daughter was wearing the mask that I had that I was going to be wearing for myself, which was just ears and nose. I'm like, oh, she's cute. I'm going to throw her up on Instagram. Just a picture of her. And just that stupid picture, it's so out. Like, I need to give her a part and try it out. Which led to the first episode, which came up this January, called Leader of the Pack.
Nice. So
the leader of the pack.
I see you've done quite a few episodes, and it's funny. I got to mention this as you were talking about, you singing and having the wig on. Now, I talk a lot on my show about some of the different, rock concerts I've been to. I'm a big rock fan. I interviewed a guy a couple nights ago that was actually a band manager for a rock band, and it was kind of cool to have him on. But when I talk about the concerts, there's one concert that I always leave out, and I haven't done this on purpose, but I've talked about, I think I've seen Aerosmith 4 or 5 times. I've seen AC/DC a couple of times. Now, the band I've seen second, as far as the number of times, it may even be first. I can't remember how many times I saw this band. And I'm sure you know the name of this band since you have a 17-year-old. I saw the Wiggles 4 times in concert live. Now, have you ever been to a Wiggles show?
Yep, but actually we tried getting tickets a long time ago and just couldn't afford it.
Oh, we went a bunch of times. And I think the highlight of one of the shows we went to is, you remember Jeff? He came up into the stands. He was walking around in that "Where's Jeff" segment, and he actually picked up my son's Matt and hugged him. And that was like the highlight of like my parenting life. Those are one of those days when you look and go, I am the best dad in the world today. And of course, I have many of the other days where I walk away and I'm like, man, I blew it today. Today was a bad parenting day, But so now, where do you see you've got the show up and running, and You're hoping that this will be something where you can make a living doing it. Now, what is your plan, I guess, going forward? I mean, how often do you do shows? Are you sending this out to I guess schools? Are you advertising it? What are you doing for the show to kind of get it big?
Well, I don't have much of a budget because, like I said, we have a lot of bills. We have a lot of kids. So I create videos every 10 to 14 days. There's a new episode. I'm constantly writing episodes. I think I have the first 10 episodes already done sitting in my phone. And to promote them, I post about them on my Instagram. I post about them on my Facebook. I also post on Reddit. Facebook groups helps a lot because I post on daycare pages saying, hey, would you mind hanging up this flyer? I call local schools in Connecticut, would you mind hanging out my flyer or passing out to the kids in their backpacks, which they really won't let you right now because of Corona for that one. Reaching out to people that do podcasts, such as yourself.
Well, now, it's funny you mentioned the schools. What I could offer you is, in addition to having you on the podcast today, I don't talk about my regular job too often, but what I do for my real job is I actually work with schools. I manage the Northeast for a company that sells STEM curriculum. So I go into the schools and I work with, whatever. And I go around to a lot of schools. So if you'd like, I could probably help you by handing out your information in a lot of the schools that I go into. Right now, I've been shut down literally for a year. I've been home remotely. I'm hoping that I'll be back traveling in the fall where I can get back out to schools. But it's funny, you mentioned also this was kind of like a COVID creation for you. It's been the same thing for me. I started this back in March. And I got on, didn't know what it was going to be like. I had no idea. But here I am now, 12 months into it. And I think I've published 225 episodes. I've got roughly 30,000 downloads. So it's funny, you never know what direction your life's going to go. And it sounds like you've really developed something that, number one, is going to benefit kids. It's also helping you to connect with your kids. Now, are your older kids involved with these videos at all? And if not, what do they think about them?
So at first, they didn't want to be. Kind of like me, they have diagnosed anxiety disorders. Most of my kids do, not all of them. So they wanted really nothing to do with it. One of my kids' therapists says, do one of your dad's shows. So in the episode called, I'm not even sure which one. I think it's episode 3 or 4. She has one of the lead dogs, and she talks and talks. And she keeps saying how great it was and how people compliment her all the time on our pages, and she wants to do more, and she wants to help write, and she wants to play this character, and now she wants to be a cat. and definitely helped her with her anxiety. And same thing for my son in an episode called Beauty and the Cats, which is based on Beauty and the Beast. No, I'm sorry, Alice in Wonderland.
Yep.
She wanted my son's like, I want a part. I'm like, I already filmed them, the whole thing. I don't really have anything left. He goes, well, you have the Queen of Hearts. I'm like, if you want to be the Queen of Hearts and you're comfortable doing that, I don't care. So so my son got on one of my daughter's dresses and did the Queen of Hearts just for fun. And he thinks it's the best thing ever because now his friends think he's funny. And
well, it's a real thing, though. And Eric, if you get a chance, I've got my producer in here, Eric, and also my co-host. Keep posting that blurb I sent you about Mike's show. I know you posted it once. If you could, keep posting it down there so people can follow Mike on social media. And if you get a chance, maybe forward his information out on Twitter, which I'll do today, to all my followers and people like that. But it's true. Now, one of the issues I've had in my, in where I live, now I live in a small town also. Now, you may know the Worcester area. I live like 2 towns northwest of Worcester in a small little town. And I've had one of my children told me point blank, stop talking about me on the podcast, because it's funny. When I do this, I don't really think of it as even being like a real thing where people might even be listening to me where I live. But I've had people come up to me like at Little League baseball games. Hey, John, your show on this was really good the other night. It's like, oh boy, wow, you actually listened to it? So it's kind of weird. But my son told me that he's 14, middle school, and a couple of his friends were kind of giving him a little bit of crap about the show. So I told him I'd stop talking about him. And of course, I just blew my rule there. So now I'm talking about him. Ethan, I apologize. But I started this, and I started doing it with my daughter, Caitlin, and she's 15 years old. And she's been through a lot. She deals with anxiety. My oldest son deals with anxiety. I've had bouts of anxiety and insecurity. And I think it's important for people like you to come out and develop shows like this, because I think, even the people that are in the live with us right now, the people that are going to listen to this podcast afterwards on all the different platforms, I mean, a lot of people deal with anxiety and a lot of people deal with insecurities. I deal with it now. when I do my shows, a lot of times I come on and I think to myself, is my show any good? Is it just a silly side hobby? Should I be doing this? At this point, over the last 12 months, like I said, I've published 225 shows. I've listened to half of one of the shows. I don't listen to any of them because I don't like hearing my voice. I don't like hearing the shows. I just feel very uncomfortable listening to myself. And I think part of it is due to my anxiety. So now, do you think, is this helping you deal with your anxiety? And do you think it's helping maybe your children, like you mentioned, you kind of led into a little bit, deal with their anxiety?
Yeah, and they're watching me lead by example because I've never been comfortable with myself. Maybe I'm socially awkward, or I just don't feel like I can be me. I'm writing episodes. I could be as dumb or stupid as I want, and no one cares because you know what? It's not me saying it. Hey, Mike didn't say it. Rusty the dog said it. I didn't make the funny statement. The dog did. You can't blame me. You won't even see me in the episodes. You'll see my kids, but you won't see me, but you'll hear me a lot. And my kids are like, I really want to be a part of this, and I want to have people hear me too. And if you don't want them to see you, that's fine. But which is what I'm working on now. One of my daughters is in it, you could see her. My son's in it, you could see her. My other daughter's like, I don't know yet if I want people to see me. So we would want to push her, but when she's ready, then I'll give her a part.
See, it's hard to put yourself out there. I feel the same way with this. I use the excuse all the time that I'm a boomer. I don't really get the technology for like doing video. I do get it, and I could do it if I wanted to do it. I actually broadcast one show live on TikTok. I hated looking at myself the entire time I was broadcasting. And of course I had, if my friend Mr. A is still in here, he popped in onto my TikTok and said, "Oh my God, you have the perfect face for radio." That didn't help things. He's a good friend of the show. But it's hard, it's hard to put yourself out there. But, I think you have to get to a point in your life where you're like, you know what, I'm going to do what I feel is right. I'm going to do and be true to myself. And if certain people don't like it, oh well. I mean, you're never going to please everybody, no matter what you do in life. Everyone deals with insecurity. Everyone deals with anxiety. And I think today, I've talked about, I've done whole shows on this, like technology and society today. Now you're using it for a positive outcome, but I think all the different forms of social media and all the different forms of technology do have a place. And in some aspects they're good, but I think they've created a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety on kids. And you have teenagers. Have you seen that with your older kids?
Oh yeah, we have to all the time get off your phone, stop checking your likes, stop looking at your comments, and even to myself, my wife will say it to me sometimes, even to me sometimes. So yeah, it's another level of anxiety.
Well, it's hard too, because I know I've got some friends in the chat here, and they're all friends except for Roastmaster Glenn. Him. I'm just kidding, Roastmaster Glenn. I love you. I know I have a loud voice. I'm sorry. I apologize. But with my kids, when they get a little bit older, it's hard because I know there's a few parents in here that have said, well, when my kids get older, no social media. And I was the same way. When my kids were little, there's no reason for them to have a phone until they're in 8th grade. They don't need to have any forms of social media. But then all of a sudden they get into like 5th and 6th grade, and every other single kid in the school has one. Every other kid is on Snapchat. So literally they can't communicate with their friends. Their friends think they're weird because they don't have a phone and they don't have social media. So then, I mean, your kids are literally begging you all the time, Dad, I can't talk to any of my friends because I don't have this. So finally, for me anyway, I reluctantly gave in. But then you open yourself up for, a new type of bullying in this world that didn't exist when I was a kid, where people can just kind of run and duck. And we had an instance of it here. If you were reading the chat, we had a troll come in, my administrator blocked him, and he was kind of giving my good friend Eric a hard time. And that happens all the time here too on these shows. Yeah. And it's just unfortunate that you have, with social media, you have a lot of cowards that can kind of come in and attack, and I think create anxiety with our children. And there's a lot for them to deal with today. I mean, how do you deal with all of that? I mean, number one, as a parent, and number two, in doing this new venture, the series, I mean, have you dealt with any of those type of things, like pressure from social media and things like that with your show?
Oh yeah, I get comments all the time. Instead you should do this, or this show sucks, stop doing it. And I was like, I'm sorry you don't like it, but I'm going to keep doing it. Or if they give me a comment like you should do this instead of this, I'll say, I'll seriously consider your comment, but this is the direction I'm going in right now. And my kids get comments too, especially since I said we just moved out of a different town.
Right.
There was a lot of bullying in that school too, at least both my middle girls. And I'm glad it moved because we don't see them anymore.
Which is a good thing. I'll tell you, I mean, middle school for girls is brutal. brutal. I mean, it hasn't been a picnic for my boys either, but I don't think I realized how difficult it is to be a teenage girl. I mean, when you see, and it's not just, my daughter, it's a lot of the girls go through just a very, very difficult time in middle school. And I mean, I really feel bad. I mean, it's hard for them. And, we've seen a lot of bullying in our district with a lot of different kids, but I don't think it's just this district. I think a lot of times it's widespread amongst a lot of different places. And maybe it's always been that way. I mean, I know when I was a kid, there was bullying, back in the dark ages, but back in the day too, if you were bullied, generally you could fight back and then it would be over. And that was more of like a boy thing. I'm not sure girls even operated that way back then, but bullying's a big problem. So you're seeing where you're living now, less of a bullying issue.
Yes and no, because since we moved here in December, my kids are actually homeschooled, so they haven't gone to public school yet.
My daughter is also.
Right. But we have gone on Facebook and the local community and saying, hey, I have 2 girls. They are these age. If anyone has kids these age, come and by. And people have contacted me and they have met some of the girls. And like, so far, I'm like, I like these kids better. They're getting in with a good crowd. So I'm meeting their parents first.
And I do react a lot to the comments in my chat. I don't know if you see that one from my good friend Roastmaster Glenn. He likes to rag on me, but he's a good friend of the show. He said, not spot that the 50-year-old man wasn't knowledgeable about what it was like to be a teen girl. Thank you for pointing that out, Glenn. I do appreciate that. And that thought did go through my mind. I made that comment. He's always there for me. That's what I like about him. But go ahead.
And so, like you said, I mean, it's different now. Well, when I grew up, like you said, I had like 5 guy friends, and once in a while, we might maybe punch each other for a day, but the next day we're best friends again and getting ice cream, and I still talk to some of them even now.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it's different. And hey, I want to check in there. I see a couple of people mentioning they're having a hard time hearing the guest. Can everybody hear them okay, or are you guys really struggling with the audio? Just give me a couple. I see Glenn saying he's having a hard time hearing the guest. Can other people hear? You can hear him? Okay, good. All right, Glenn, it might be time to turn up that hearing aid then, buddy, if you're having a hard time, you're hearing this struggle. I can hear him on my headphones loud and clear. That's why I'm asking. So that's good. All right. So again, now you mentioned also, I want to get this out there too. I mean, we're talking about, your YouTube series, The Dogs of Town Hall. Make sure everybody, checks it out. And you had sent me a clip. And, I'm a total ADHDer, so I figured I would look at it for like 30 seconds like I do most things. But I literally watched the entire thing, and I thought it was awesome. Your daughter, I figured right away that was your daughter. She's adorable. It's funny. It's cute. And I can see this doing really well. But now it seems like your wife is also doing a show or a series on YouTube as well. Do you want to talk about hers a little bit?
So hers started the same way. She saw me start in April of last year, 2020. And she saw I was doing well. She saw I was helping with my anxiety. And she goes, I want to do a show. I go, you've been talking about doing the show for 2 years. She's like, well, now I'm ready. I said, fine, I'll support you. If you want to help you edit, I'll help promote you. So I'm almost like her manager now. And she wasn't, again, not comfortable with her face on camera. So her first couple of videos, you can hear her talking, but you won't really see her. Or you'll see the back of her. But that's kind of like her own therapy now, too. It's called Not All That Sparkles Shines. She does the house cleaning tips and tricks for, hacks for cleaning up your house. Also does cooking tips and family vlogging and a lot of stuff on there. She actually picked up her pace now, how often she posts, because she loves seeing the positive reactions that she's been getting from most people back.
Now, I don't know if you guys felt this way. I love the idea of a show. I like the name also. Now, does she stay at home now? Is she home 100% of the time, not working at this point?
She's home 100%, but she teaches kids in China how to teach English every morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Nice.
So she still makes some kind of money. And both me and her deliver food for Uber Eats or for DoorDash.
Nice.
So if we're a little bit short of money, it's not often. We're like, we need some extra money. She'll go out door dashing for an hour, or I'll go out Ubering for an hour.
Hey, I've done the same thing. I've done both Uber and Lyft. I've never done DoorDash, and I actually had to take an Uber the other day, and the guy was telling me all about DoorDash, and he was saying he makes pretty good money delivering for DoorDash, and saying that he does well. I mean, that's great that you have. What I like about those type of things too. You're your own boss. You don't have anybody looking over your shoulder. You can just do your own thing. And I know with Lyft and Uber, it hasn't been, obviously with COVID, as lucrative as a business. But when I did it, it was kind of like I wanted to experience it. I like to try new things. So for me, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I want to see what it's like to drive an Uber, to drive a Lyft. And it was funny. You get so many different people, just a range of different people. I remember, this is kind of a funny story. I picked up this guy, and he was leaving this house. I don't know if he was in a program of some sort or whatever. And I still haven't figured out if he was leaving when he was supposed to or if he was like breaking out. But literally, he and this woman came out with like 10 trash bags. It had all their clothes in it, and they like loaded them in the back of my truck like really quickly. And they're like, all right, let's go. I mean, it took like 30 seconds for them to load all this stuff into my car. They jumped in and they're like, let's go. So I'm, driving off thinking, all right, am I breaking a law here? Am I like, am I their escape driver from someplace they were supposed to be? And I literally ended up driving this guy directly to a program for, I think, alcohol or whatever. And when we got there, he goes, all right, well, listen, he goes, I'm going to take my bags out and I'm going to stash them in the woods. So literally in the parking lot, he took all of his bags, put them deep into the woods, and then went into the building. And I'm like, it was funny. I went for a walk in that area about a week ago. My son was lifting weights, and I drove to this area to kind of walk around. And I actually took a look into the woods to see if those bags were still there, and they were gone. But now another funny one is I was in downtown Worcester, and there's a venue down there where a lot of rock bands play. And I pick up this guy, and I don't know if you realize this, but I mean, I'm sure you do. Most people sit in the back seat. This guy climbed right in the front with me, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And he starts talking, and he tells me he was like the lead guitar player of, what the hell was the name of the band? I can't think of the name of the band. And he broke guitar strings, and he needed to find a music store. So he was telling, he's from South Africa. He was playing in the Palladium. He was the lead guitar player, and just like a super cool guy to meet and talk to. It's just kind of a neat experience to meet different people and things like that. Oh, Mr. A, you're killing me. John never delivered a full container of French fries. That would be the problem with me. If I was delivering for DoorDash and that food smelled good and I had a long ride, there's probably a pretty good chance I'd be dipping in. I'd get fired very quickly. You're right there, Mr. A. You called that one, especially if it was tamales. I'm still waiting for my offer for you to send me tamales. But so that's cool. So you guys are both doing that now. Are you now, for you, is it a possibility where you could do your job permanently out of your house? I mean, you said, I think you're in computer tech or something to that effect. Could you work remotely? Would your company let you do that permanently?
Well, I've been working remote since March, and I only go to the office if we have to, if we get new systems we have to scan or anything, so do computer security. So
Right.
I go in probably like maybe 4 days a month, maybe once a week I'll go in. We just got a new boss, like a new big boss.
Yep.
And I talked to him. I said, I have anxiety issues. I have stomach issues. He says, well, whenever they call us back on site, which won't be till September, we'll talk again, because maybe you could stay home 3 days a week. Maybe you could stay home 5 days a week. So I think one way or the other, I'll still be home most of the time.
That's great.
Because I don't know if my old boss would have let me do that, though.
Yeah, I think that's one of the good new things about COVID. Now, for me, I've been in sales my entire career. I've literally been remote my entire career. I've never worked in an office. The only time I did it was that one year when I was VP of sales. I had to go in a few days a week to the office. And for me, it was almost like a fantasy camp because I'd never worked in an office before. So, and I skipped the whole cubicle phase. I went right into having an actual office. But honest to God, I couldn't get anything done. My office was right across from the bathroom, and there was like a big glass window on the door. I didn't have a shade on it. And literally every time anyone walked by to go to the bathroom, they would knock on my door and come in. I could not get anything done. I was constantly in conversations with people. And then the worst part was, you figure, okay, well, I'm the vice president of sales now, kind of a big job. I ended up talking to people with human resources about body odor, about, talking too loud in their cubicles. I mean, these little petty things. And I'm like, I hate this. So for me, I've always been a remote. I don't think I could work in an office. So I think you're going to see more and more now where companies are going to let their employees work remotely out of the house because it's worked. I think people are just as efficient at home. And for you, a guy that battled with some anxiety, it would probably help you cut down on that quite a bit. Now, what other things have you done to help you with your anxiety? Because I know anxiety can be, debilitating.
It is. And gosh, I take a walk probably every few days, sometimes by myself, sometimes I take my dog. Sometimes even with my family with me, I can still relieve anxiety by walking. I have other hobbies. I do play classical piano. I play every single day. Maybe a sonata or two. About an hour a day, I'll play something, and that helps a lot. A lot to soothe me. And another hobby I have, which is kind of a weirder one, I play with model trains. I have an HO train layout, which was in my old house, took up my whole basement. And now that we moved, I haven't set it up yet. So I have to get around to that.
Well, I think it's important to have hobbies. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I started this, was to have a hobby. My hobby for many years had been coaching baseball. My boys and my daughter all played baseball and softball, so I coached a lot of games every year. But now I've kind of peeled that back a little bit, and I haven't been coaching as much the last few years. So I collect a lot of things. It's funny. I'm kind of I collect baseball cards, signed baseball, sports memorabilia, movie memorabilia, and even like different types of like historical things. Like I just purchased a parade flag, a Civil War parade flag, and kind of put that together in a nice little frame. I just like doing different things. I'm a guy that likes going to yard sales. I find that to be relaxing. Yeah. And I think it's important to have those hobbies. So yeah, I've never really done the model train thing, but I've always seen like impressive model trains that people put a lot of time and money into. And really, that's a heck of a hobby. And it can be an expensive hobby also, right? Because those trains are not cheap from what I've seen.
They're not really cheap. Most of my trains I get at train shows, so they're already used, they're already marked down, or I'll get them on Amazon or eBay. For scenery, I don't want to pay a lot of money, so I build my own mountains, I build my own rivers. So I still pay some for the materials, but newspaper is a lot less than professional paper mache type stuff.
Yeah, I see. You see in the chat the Forgotten Tunes. His name's Chris. He's a really good guy. Has a podcast. Glenn is also a lot of good friends in there. Eric, the gray area. Chris said he's into trains also, and yes, they can be expensive. And I saw Roastmaster Glenn make a comment a little bit earlier, because I know he's a chef, actually lives in Canada, and he was saying that DoorDash is really having an effect on smaller restaurants. Now, can't smaller restaurants use DoorDash? I would imagine that small restaurants could use that service, right? I would think that could possibly help smaller restaurants get their food out to customers that maybe don't want to drive there.
Oh yeah, they can, and a lot of them do. And same for Uber Eats that I deliver for. I mean, tiny places. They don't have anyone to drive, so well, I'm the guy. If I'm signed in, that's me.
So now I see that your oldest child is 17 years old. So you're getting the same stage I am, right? With college on the horizon, or, after high school, working. So what's your oldest planning on doing right now? Is college in the future, or are they looking maybe at some other avenue?
He's been working the past year at a restaurant, actually a small restaurant. And he's looking at colleges, but I'm not kidding. His choice for his major has changed probably 6 times the past 4 years. So right now it's in some kind of therapy. I don't know if he sees us or what, but he wants to be some type of therapist, possibly like a drug counselor.
My daughter wants to be a psychologist, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, Jesus, what does that say? And she's funny. She looks at me and she goes the other day, she goes, Dad, I could diagnose you right now. And I'm like, what? While I appreciate that, and I'm sure you'll probably be right, I'd rather just not know. Please don't.
Oh, he does that all the time. Because he'll say, according to DSM-5, you have a level 6 of anxiety of keep going on and on. I'm like, okay, whatever, I don't care.
So listen, get back to your podcast, because I mean to your YouTube series. I want to make sure we give it enough time on the show. So you've done a number of episodes. Have you found it to be gaining popularity? Do you think are you seeing the numbers go up at this point, or are you so where are you at as far as numbers now when you publish a new episode?
Most of my episodes now are about 1,000 that I posted since January. The newest one I just posted a couple days ago, I think it's about 200, but that will pick up. But compared to my old videos, it's way more. I think I got more subscribers to the channel the past 3 months than I have the whole first 8 months before that. So since the dog show started, my views have picked up, and my subscribers have picked up, my likes have picked up. So I'm on the right path. I'm doing something right, and I just have to tweak it or find a better way of advertising it better.
Yeah, well, I think for you, I like the idea of tying music into it too, because I mean, I think for little kids and even for older kids, I mean, if you could tie in like catchy songs, like you were talking about, you said you don't have like the best singing voice. My singing voice is awful. I can't sing at all. But I think it's good if you could tie things in, even if you're not like a professional singer. I mean, I think if the kids find it fun and things like that, that'll be something they watch over and over and over again. And I think it's great. I mean, so if anything, you've got this series, you're working on your anxiety, you're helping your children with their anxiety. I think there are a lot of children out there and parents that deal with anxiety. And I think on top of it, I mean, the one thing, more than not, is you are having that together time now with your family that you felt like you were missing before. So that must make you feel pretty good as a dad, being around for, those things maybe you were missing before.
Yeah, I mean, we spend time together writing episodes together and acting together. And we'll be a Friday and say, don't forget, Sunday at 11, we're recording. And they remember. So, it's reserved. Everybody's home. And if it was, say, before we started the show, everybody would be doing their own thing. Who knows what I'll be doing?
So now,
just putting stuff together, yeah.
With the show, now you do all the editing yourself? I imagine you edit shows and you have to do quite a bit of work to get these things ready. Or you just kind of shoot and go?
For this show, I used to do shoot and go, but not anymore. Now what I do is I record the first scene or the first 5 lines, edit it, make it all nice and perfect. Then another day or the same day, do another 5 lines. The 3-year-old, I don't really want to overwork her. So
Right.
She has a choice. I'll say, do you want to record today? No, I don't want to. She hasn't said that, but if she does, it's fine. So when she does want to record, because lately she's been asking me, can we do the dog show? I'll ask her about every 5 minutes or so, you want to do another line or do you want to stop? And Charlie says, keep going, keep going. But once it hits a half an hour, I stop her and we finish another day.
Right. Now, if everyone looks down in the chat, you can see that Eric has been posting the different ways to contact Mike, different social media outlets and things like that. So if you get a chance, make sure you get on and follow him and check it out. And if you have kids, if you have grandchildren, if you've got nieces or nephews, forward this along to them so they can take a look, because they really are cute. I think that they will enjoy them. Now, I this kind of, when Eric posted that, it made me think of another question I had for you. Now, where did you come up with the name? Because you mentioned this in the email that you sent to me. And I don't even know how to pronounce it properly, but Vardalia Onions. How did you come up with that name? Why don't you tell everybody about that?
So my last name is Vardal. It's Vardal, so it looks like Vardal. When my daughter was in 7th grade, for whatever reason, the teacher kept saying, hey, it's Vardalia Onion. Hey, it's Vardalia Onion. They sent her home because of Corona in March. When I started the show in April, I'm like, you know what? She doesn't see that teacher anymore. I can steal that name. So basically it came from her teacher, and now we're Vardalia Onions because we're a family. It's not just me. And I want to make it clear this is not a one-person show. That's why I called it Vardalia Onions. So, it's our last name. It has an IA. It sounds like an onion, so we just kind of ran with that.
Now, how have your kids done being away from school now with and today, I got to tell everybody this real quickly. I'm an ADD or I go this way, so bear with me. But today in my life is an absolute monumental day for everybody in my chat, listening to my live right now, for all my friends at home. Today is literally the first day in 1 year where I am home alone. I am home alone. My wife is at work. My oldest son is in school. My 2 boys are in school. They're still doing hybrid, but they're in. And today, my daughter went to work with my wife. So I have not had one day in the last year where I've been alone. I'm not going to lie, this is absolutely phenomenal. It's glorious. It's amazing. I feel like just a wave of calm is kind of washed over my body. Now, I love my family, but I'm also a guy that likes my alone time, and I'm enjoying it very much today. So big day for me being home alone. I know my friends in here have all heard my stories about all the stuff going on. I literally had a Zoom meeting the other day, a pretty important one for work. It was just 3 people, me, my consultant, and this important customer. And I literally had to block my picture and mute my voice as I had to run across the room and literally separate 2 of my boys having a fist fight in the kitchen, screaming at each other. And as I was screaming at them, I'm thinking to myself, please God, did I mute that Zoom? I hope I did, because if not, I'm probably going to get fired. But I mean, that's kind of how my life's been. And Cummings, you may be right. You may be right on that comment. I'm not going to dignify that with a comment, but you may be right. So yeah, how have you kids dealt with being away from school and being away from their friends? My daughter doesn't care. She likes being home. But for my youngest 2, it's been a struggle. They're very social and they like being around their friends. Has it been hard for your kids? And do you think that they have been suffering from being at home and being away from, the structured day of the school?
I think so. I mean, they say they don't, but they're homeschooled. But overall, the grades aren't as good as they were before. Their focus isn't there as much, and they're not meeting anybody new, except for the people I met on Facebook. they still talk to their friends from our old town, but maybe like 2 kids for each girl because they narrowed it down. Is this person really my friend? No. So I'm only going to talk to this person and that person. So we do see them maybe once every 2 weeks or so, but they both they want to meet more people. So it's kind of like they want to go to school. And actually, I just called yesterday to our town to enroll them in full-time schooling in the fall. So when they go into 9th grade and 7th grade, they will be back. They won't be homeschooled anymore. So they're nervous, but I'm kind of glad for them in that case.
I am too. It looks like my kids, like my oldest son, who's on the autism spectrum, has basically been at school almost the entire time because he goes to a therapeutic school in Worcester called Summit Academy. Best school on the face of the earth for kids with autism. If anyone happens to listen to me and you're from Massachusetts, Connecticut, wherever, kids bus from all over. My son goes to Summit Academy in Worcester. Google it. Phenomenal school. They have literally changed his life. But because there's so few kids that go to that school, they've been able to stay in person the majority of the time. But my kids are supposed to all go back on April 5th. The district I live in, the Wachusett School District, looks like they're going to go back full-time. I'm sure that's going to be a challenge for the teachers, but no more of a challenge than it's been trying to teach half of the kids in class while the other half are at home. I don't know how they do it. It's been just crazy for teachers throughout this time. And I have a ton of respect for anyone that's been trying to teach through this entire process. But listen, we're at 46 minutes. I want to keep this under an hour because quite frankly, shorter shows get more downloads. And I want to make sure that we keep it under an hour. If you could, I'm going to give you the floor for a little bit. Give us again, like a little bit of a just story behind your show, explain what your show is about, and let people know why they should be tuning in and checking out the Dogs of Town Hall.
So Dogs of Town Hall is a bunch of stuffed animals, basically, dogs that have their own personalities, their own voices, and they get into basically trouble each episode. Know that someone has to solve. Usually it's my daughter who's 3 years old. She's the leader of the pack. She takes care of their problems and basically takes care of them almost like a mother. In the stories, they'll travel distant lands. They'll go to Alice in Wonderland. We call that episode Avery in Wonderland. Or they'll go to Beauty and the Beast, and we'll call it like Beauty and the Cats. And you just have to take care of an issue. Like in one episode, there's a mouse, and he's turning all the cats into inanimate objects. This is Beauty and the Cats, such as a bookcase and a candle and objects like that. So he has to find out who's causing the problem, find the person who ends up being the mouse, or just changing them into characters, and well, basically dealing with him and kicking him out of the castle. So the shows are cute. They are made for kids, but it's not painful for adults to watch like other kid shows. Honestly, if this was on and I didn't make this, I would watch this.
Yeah, there were some shows I remember. I'm trying to think of which ones. There were certain ones that, oh my God, I despise them. But then the other ones, one of my favorites was Bear in the Big Blue House. I don't know why I like that show, but I would sit down with my kids and he'd talk to the moon, Luna, and I just like that show. The Wiggles too, I will admit it. I would sit there and I'd do the whole, fruit salad, yummy, yummy, the whole thing in my head as they were doing their thing, and I never had a problem with the Wiggles. So I think things like this is so important, and you never know. This could be one of those big success stories where this was a COVID project, and next thing you know, you're getting millions of downloads and whatever. So I wish you the best of luck. I hope it really, really goes well, for you. And I mean, like I said, I literally watched the entire video, one of the videos that he sent me. They're really funny. They're really cute. So if you have any children in your family, make sure you share this with them. And even if you don't have any children, take a look at it and check it out. It's really cute and it's well done. I mean, you can tell that you have put a lot of effort and love into this, and it shows when you watch, one of the episodes or one of the videos. So I give you credit, man. It sounds like you're doing really well. I'm happy for you. I wish you all the very most success, in this venture moving forward. And again, if you want to come back on with us another time, please do. And I'm sure there might be some other podcasts in here also that might be willing to put you on as well. And I think getting your name out there as much as you can will benefit your brand. So it's been a pleasure to have you on, man. Thank you for joining.
I want to say a very quick way of finding us. The easiest way is just go to everyday Google. Just go to normal Google.
Okay, you broke up there for a second. Why don't you repeat that again one more time?
Oh, sorry. The quickest way to find us is just to go to Google and click on videos.
Okay.
And they're all right there.
So Google Dogs of Town Hall. Oh, that makes sense. Then you can find them all in the banner down below. Okay, yeah. So go into Google, click, put in the Dogs of Town Hall and then look for all the videos. They'll show up there. So awesome, man. It's been a pleasure to have you come in. And listen, before I go to Eric to promote some of the other shows, I want to talk about one show I'm doing next week that I am really, really, really excited about. For all the people out there, and again, I wish I could do this in December, but I'm doing it in March. But I reached out to, as some of you already know, the young girl who's now 80 years old, who played Zuzu in It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. In my opinion, the best Christmas movie that's ever been put out. One of my favorites. I never miss it. You know, when I was going through kind of a difficult time in my 20s, I remember watching that film. And I remember seeing the scene at the bar when Jimmy Stewart was just kind of losing it. And I remember that kind of really hit me, you know, personally when I kind of watched that. So I reached out to the woman, Carolyn, who played Zuzu. She's now 80 years old, lives in California, and asked her if she'd like to come on the show. So she is coming on next Wednesday, not tomorrow, but next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific time. And we're going to have a full hour with Zuzu from It's a Wonderful Life. She's going to take questions. I mean, how cool will it be to ask her, you know, what was it like to be on set with Jimmy Stewart and some of these legends in Hollywood? Now, she has admitted that, you know, her memory's a little spotty. When she was in this, she was 6 years old and she's now 80. So that was quite some time ago. But she does remember, you know, Jimmy Stewart being a good guy and all that type of stuff. So I'm super excited. That should be a great interview. If you're a fan of It's a Wonderful Life, I mean, you know, this is the girl that had probably the most iconic line in the movie. You know, teacher says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. And very, very cool. So I'm pumped to have her on and excited to, you know, for that show. So make sure you guys help me promote that and fill up the live for her next Wednesday. Now, I think she may be calling in. I tried to talk to her about an app and getting into Podbean. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'd be good to give her a nice full live so people can ask her questions and things like that. So, Eric, let me go to you before we wrap it up. Let us know what other shows happen, and then we will wrap up this big boy and put a bow on it.
Well, and even Glenn down in the chat is asking about Sunday evening, doing a roast of John DeVito.
Oh, I didn't see that. So when? You want to do it this Sunday, 9 p.m.? Is there any way we could do a little bit earlier? 9 p.m., man, that's late for me. I'm an old man. Can we do like 7? Would 7 o'clock work for you? I'm telling you, late usually doesn't work good for me. I'm usually home with the family. We're doing something together, and 9 makes it a little bit more difficult. If you could do 7, I could do it. Let me know if that time works for you. So shoot me an email, and I could probably do a little bit earlier. So go ahead, Eric.
But anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to thank the names that came in our live, who were, of course, the top fans in this show: Mr. A, Roastmaster Glenn, Chris from the Forgotten Tunes, Rockin' Al, Jeremy from Comics is Culture, Sarge from the Gray Area, and a host of other great names who passed through today's live show. And we couldn't do it without you. And definitely thank you to the listeners. Listen to this published episode on download. And and for those listening to Podbean Live, we invite you to check out the Talks with Turtle show, doing an impromptu show at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And we hope, of course, that he'll be able to come on soon to the John DeVito show to do a Get to Know Your Podcaster interview. And we're always looking for good, Get to Know Your Podcaster interview candidates. If Sarge from the Gray Area is listening to this, I mean, you're welcome to reach out to John and about scheduling a good day.
I've never done one in the Gray Area. I'd like to do that. So, yeah, if you're in here, if you're still here, reach out. That'd be a good show. I'd like to do that. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. All right. Let me go ahead and plug that email in the chat. So he can get in touch with you. But around 7 p.m. Eastern Time this evening, Jeremy will be doing his Tuesday edition of Cummings is Culture. That should be a great show. And I think Chuck and Billy's Not Your Cup of Tea should be going live around 8 p.m. Eastern Time this evening. The Tuesday edition of the Slightly Serious show at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Definitely be on the lookout for Slightly Serious. Followed at 11 p.m. Eastern Time by Trice Talk. And the Forgotten Tunes with Chris should be live about 11:30 p.m. or midnight Eastern Time tonight. So also be on the lookout for him. And Chit Chat with the Old Man tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And then John DeVito will be back tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time with a Wednesday show. And also coming up later in the week, Frankie D's Crib is on Wednesday and Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And Robert we'll also be doing the Mr. Clean Music Show also tonight around 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time and Thursday. And hopefully he should be going live between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow and Friday as well. Very, very great music show. And then, of course, Tall Tales in the Rabbit Hole is now on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by Trice Talk at 11 p.m. And then also over the weekend, be on the lookout for Lyrical Laxatives, the Turfy Show, the It's Doomsday podcast. And Friday evening around 7:30 p.m. Eastern, be on the lookout for Felix to do a great podcast show called The Swap Doesn't Lie, and a host of other great podcast friends. And we also hope to see new episodes of the Ralph William podcast and Just Another Day in Paradise on Podbean again soon. And make it a great Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk at you again soon. Love you. God bless.
Yeah, real quick. I see Roastmaster Glenn saying Friday at 9 p.m. the Glenn B side show with guest host Father Brian. Now Glenn is going to be coming back to doing lives, which is kind of cool. So that's pretty awesome.
Happy early birthday,
I had an
Chris.
idea too. What we could do to even expand and what we could do to expand the show a little bit is I think we have to get the show out to college kids also. Maybe we can have like a Dogs of Town Hall drinking game for the kids in fraternities and things like that. So you get like a couple million extra views on that. I don't know. I remember I used to do that to like the Christmas shows, like Frosty the Snowman. We would do like drinking games in college, so those type of things. So of course, I was doing that instead of being in class, and that was, I guess, was part of my problem. So, hey, again, thank you to Mike Vardal for coming to the show.
Planet ADHD as well. That's another good podcast.
Yep, the Dogs of Town Hall series on YouTube. Check it out. You'll love it. Okay. That's it. We are done. Thank you for coming in, guys. All right, take care now.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Guests of the John DeVito Show stay at the All Suites Omni Hotel, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile. Hopefully that sounded good.
I love that. That's fantastic. That's funny. Oh. The guests of the John DeVito Show don't have a hotel to stay in because he lives in the middle of nowhere. That's right.
That's taken from the Oprah Winfrey Show, the Jenny Jones Show, and the Jerry Springer Show whenever they used to do their shows in Chicago.
That was awesome. All right.
See you later, everybody. See you around.
All right. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Bye.